That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Um, you know, it is true that that line about if you look inside, if you listen to your heart or you look inside your heart, you'll find money. I think that is true of everyone who has mothered or nurtured anyone, that we are all sending out the divine love, the divine mother's love into the universe, and it just happens to land on the piece of our heart that is existing outside of our bodies in that moment. So happy Mother's Day, everybody. I know that there are those who had challenging relationships with their mom, or they're a mom, but they have challenging relationships with their kids. And then we have the people who basically grew up in a fantastic family and not perfect, thank you God, but had wonderful nurturing relationships. And what I want to say to everybody is that whether your mom's around today or not, whether you had the relationship you wanted, I'd like you to focus just for a few moments on your relationship with the Divine Mother, the mother that lives within your heart. Now, it's that mother I think of when I see the stuff about brand new parents who are just doting over their children. There were a couple rather famous babies born today. Anderson Cooper, the journalist, was introducing his new baby son today. I mean, this past week. And I watched him and Stephen Colbert talk about the experience of meeting their children for the first time. And the question of why did I wait so long? I thought I knew what love was. It's so much bigger. To me, that's the Divine Mother feeling through each of them. And yes, they're males. The Divine Mother can work through males and females and needs to. So I think about, you know, sometimes that can go a little too far, that dotingness, and you end up with new parents very nervously at the doctor's office because they're sure their baby has a rash, and it turns out to be like spaghetti sauce or lipstick or something like that. That's really adorable when they're infants. I don't think it lasts as long. With the second and third kid, they kind of figure out what they're doing. My brother refers to his eldest as their crash test dummy, the one that they figured out how to do things on, and learned how to let her make her mistakes. My sister-in-law, Angela, got some very wise advice about letting them make their big mistakes in middle school when it doesn't matter as much. Let them figure out if they don't do their homework, they're not going to get the grades that they want. She was wise enough and patient enough to do that with Haley, their oldest. And, you know, Haley's responsible. Haley likes getting good grades. We find that if parents don't let go and let the kids mess up and do their thing and learn how the right way for them is, there are some consequences to that. We call that helicopter parenting. And we all know through science and the natural world that, for instance, if you're watching a butterfly come out of its cocoon and you help it, you have done the butterfly a grave disservice. It needs to create its own strength and get its blood flowing to its wings through the act of getting out of that cocoon. We know the same thing about baby chicks coming out of the egg. You need to let them fight their own way out, even if it's hard to watch. We also, you know, helicopter parenting is a thing these days. And what we've learned over time, as a matter of fact, there was an article in Inc.com, which is the magazine online, that came out in January of 2018. And it talked about the dangers of helicopter parenting. And what they found is long-term, the 5 biggest problems with kids who have been helicoptered, once they become adults, they have more health problems. They feel entitled. They have more emotional problems. They rely on medication more than doing things for themselves. And they lack self-regulation skills. So what we find is that they didn't work up their own emotional muscles and spiritual muscles to figure out how to do things for themselves because somebody was always there doing it for them. That's not a great idea. It might feel good in the moment, especially if, I'm the control enthusiast that I have been in my lifetime. If I had a kid, I would want to do for them and make sure that it gets done right and go to bat for them all the time. But sometimes you need to let them fall on their metaphysical butts. And so one of the things I have learned is that this is actually how the universe works. That, well, let's see. Let's see if I can get this out from under the cat without getting bitten. Yay, I did it. Ooh, it's nice and warm now. On the very first page of our textbook, in the second paragraph, it says, to suppose that God could make a man as an individual without leaving him to discover himself would be to suppose an impossibility. Individuality must be spontaneous. And so the universe is set up so that we can go out there and try on different things, try on different makeup and different faces and different personalities until we figure out what works for us. Now, early in my career as a student of psychology, I learned something about, it's called the inner locus of control, or an internal locus of control, as opposed to the external locus of control. An internal locus of control means that I feel like I have some ability to affect my world. This is a very science of mind way of thinking about it. We say that we are responsible for the world we have created. And I'm going to back off and say it again in case you missed me the first 10,000 times. We are not to blame. We are responsible for, but not to blame. And the difference is that, there's stuff going on out there in the world. If you are a person of color, this week you might have noticed that it has flared up again on Facebook, not that it ever went away, but the idea of race and, running while black or driving while black or mowing your lawn while black. It can feel dangerous out there. I am not saying, and Science of Mind absolutely does not say, that it is the Black community's fault that the world is that way. It is everyone's responsibility, and we have an internal locus of control, so we all have the ability to change that. And that's what Science of Mind teaches. Not that we're to blame for everything that happens to us, but that we can look at whatever circumstances we might be in, and we have the power and the, not just that permission and authority to speak our word, to make it different, to make the changes that work for us, to create the world that works for everyone. So the internal locus of control says that I have power over my own life. And it is one of the things we learn as we reparent ourselves. If our parents were other than perfect, and they all were, thank God. Again, I've never tried to live with a perfect person, but I can only imagine how annoying that would be. As we reparent, we have to learn what happens to us if we have an external locus of control, if the power is outside of us and we're just at the whims of fate. There was a Psychology Today article that came out in 2017, but I'm sure it's still accurate. There was a study done on 7,500 British adults that were watched over the course of their lives. And so what they learned was that if there was an internal locus of control at age 10, by the time they were adult, they were less likely to be overweight at age 30, less likely to describe their health as poor, or show high levels of psychological stress. They may also have had higher self-esteem. My mentor, Letitia, used to say that if you want self-esteem, you must do estimable acts, things that are worthy in your own eyes of regard and of applause, if you will. So Science of Mind teaches that the locus of control is primarily within us because the divine is within us. That all the power of the universe is ours to choose to live with and by. And Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook on page 123 writes, "No greater good can come to you then to know that the power already within you is the power to live, the power to create, the power to do good, the power to heal, the power to prosper. You are to realize that the power within you is a divine authority. It is a dispenser of the divine gifts. It is a giver of life, of joy. It proclaims the kingdom of heaven, the harmony of the soul, and the unity of all being. So the great learning that we have within science of mind is also discovering an internal locus of control, is reparenting ourselves so that the only helicopter parent we have is God herself. So that we know that we have the spiritual muscle and we can flex it in order to create the world that works for everyone. As we take responsibility, the ability to respond proactively and with agency and effectively to create this world that we want. So how do we create an internal locus of control? I will tell you that when I got to this pulpit 10 years ago, I was kind of wobbly in that locus of control department. I was a new minister. It was my first pulpit. And although I knew exactly what I was doing, and I wasn't exactly, I didn't fall off the turnip truck last night, I was considered a brand new minister. And so I was switching careers and having to regain my confidence and my internal locus of control within a new sphere. Aren't we all kind of doing that right now? As we learn to live in these times where the rules have kind of changed on us, we all have to learn what we can do and what we have control over and how we're going to face it. So as a new minister, I had to learn to control what I could. That's the first thing to do to develop an inner locus of control, is control what we can. Many ministers are having to learn how to do tape talks and figure out how to do that effectively. You know what I control? I control the delete button. I control how I'm going to make this happen. Now, I do this live every Sunday with you guys, but there is the ability, should we choose it, to go back and make it look better. When I was a new minister, I had to control what I could by just doing the best I could in any given moment, to keep the doors open, to keep talking to people, and to recognize that I had control over just what I took as criticism and what I took as helpful, which is good, because the second rule is to turn criticism into growth. And I finally learned that wonderful saying about, if I wouldn't ask that person for advice, I do not need to take criticism from them. Now, I might sit down with it, and I often do, sit down with somebody's criticism or critique and see how much of it I believe to be true. How much of it do I agree with? But just because somebody else says that about you doesn't make it true. Somebody else's critique, they may not be right. And that was something I had to learn as a new minister, because I spent a rather inordinate amount of time running around trying to make everybody happy, which is the same mistake every other minister since the beginning of time has always made. I had a wonderful mentor, Reverend Bonnie from the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. And one of the beautiful things she did was, I would tell her how horribly things were going and what was going wrong, and she would laugh. And I knew that if the day came that Reverend Bonnie did not laugh, then we had a real problem. But so long as Reverend Bonnie was laughing, it might be okay. She was saying, that's just church being church. This is how it works. This is what it looks like. This is what's going on under the surface. Which brings us to suggestion number 3, which is seek help. Isn't that a little weird though? To create an internal locus of control, we have to ask for help from people on the outside. It's a little mind-bending, but it works. I called Reverend Bonnie many, many times going, I don't know what just happened, but I think it's bad. I know that 9 times out of 10, when I asked her for advice, her response was, I trust your intuition. I simply trust your intuition and the read that you have on this situation. And simply by getting a reality check from somebody I knew would correct me, I learned how to navigate and how to listen to my own heart. And yes, that's the topic for this month and this particular talk. We have to learn to listen to our own hearts and to put people around us who are willing to tell us the tough stuff, but also, for want of a better way of saying it, on our side. Now, the divine within you is always on your side, always rooting for you, always conspiring on your behalf. That's what the universe does. I have learned over my 10 years that I need to hire my own coach outside of the center. I need to have my own practitioner and prayer partners, preferably that have nothing to do with the center. I need to make sure that I am in regular contact with my colleagues. And so, yes, up until this all started, once a month, I would drive down to Phoenix and let it eat an entire day sometimes to go have lunch with my colleagues, to compare best practices, to laugh and cry together, to become intimate friends. And we've been doing that, I would say, for at least 8 or 9 years now, once a month. I don't know if we'll be able to go back to the same restaurant because it was a salad place and it was, it was one of those places where you make your own salad. And so we might have to make some changes. But what I know is that those women, those people are there for me, no matter what. During the COVID crisis, we've been meeting online once a week. I highly recommend that you up your level of support, that you reach out to people and let them reach out to you. Don't screen your calls right now. Let people say, are you okay? And then give them the honest answer. Because it's okay to not be okay right now. It's okay to say, I need some help. So I think one of the things that changed is just like the parent who, my brother and my sister-in-law are on their third kid, and they're doing a great job. I just love watching them work as parents. I really, really do. And what they have learned in part is that they're not going to do it perfectly. As my brother said, kids bounce. They're going to fall down, you need to let them. What also applies to ministry is that I am very comfortable knowing that I don't know. I don't have all your answers, guys. I think I've said that before. Don't put me up on a pedestal because all you're going to find out is that I don't know how to hem my pants. You're going to find out that I need a pedicure. You're going to find out that I don't actually know exactly what I'm doing. I just know how to go to listen to my own heart and find Spirit's answer and allow everybody to speak from divine wisdom. That is how I know that when we create our new normal after this whole pandemic and safer at home thing, we are going to create as a group, as the Christ consciousness inform, as many, many, many people. We're going to create that world that works for everyone. And you don't need to know exactly how to do it any more than I do. What we need to know is how to listen to our own hearts, how to be with ourselves in a loving way, with our prayer partners, with allowing new information, real information, not conspiracy theories and silliness, not they're out to get usness. There's no one out to get us. There's only those that love us and hold us up to learn and to grow at a higher and higher level. To quote Ernest Holmes again from the textbook, the universe holds nothing against us. No matter how many mistakes we have made, we are still perfect beings within. And the within may become the without. Not doing without, not having, but the outside. The within may become the without if we will carefully train ourselves to listen to the inner voice of truth, which speaks to us in our moments of quietness and solitude. And so we go within in order to find the kingdom of heaven. We go within in order to get righteous with the kingdom of God. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and that righteousness. That kingdom lives within you. You got to be right with your own heart and okay with who you are before you can go out into the world and be effective, really. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. I can't give you a pill to make it happen. Can't just, give you the one book that I wrote, of course, in order to make you know how to do this. But what I can do is walk that path with you as we have for the past 10 years. In our declaration of principles, we say that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. In the past 10 years, we who have been together, those of you we have called in those who were willing to be conscious of it and are still calling those people in. We choose as a community to be absolutely conscious of the heaven within us and within each other. Conscious of the power for good, conscious of the power to heal and to create, and to be powerful to create the world that works for everyone. The best lesson I ever got was that I don't have to do this alone, that the divine is conspiring for all of us, and that we as a group are creating. And so I call forth the next 10 years, and I'm so excited to see them. And you know what? Our most powerful tool, the tool that I ask you to use all the time, is prayer. So I'm going to ask you to join me in prayer right now. And know with me that there is a consciousness of good in the universe that is more powerful than we are. And not only can we use it, it is using all of us right now, because it is in this world, as this world right now, as all of us. It is the power. I can hear it giggling in the background because it's up to something. It is the power for good that goes out into the world and creates new parking lots. It creates real internet that only took us 10 years to manifest. It creates love and joy and power and peace and all the mass we might want or need to create a safe world, to create a world in which we take care of each other. It is that divine intelligence that is telling us what to do and when to do it and how to make all of this work. And so I speak my word, allowing that divine intelligence to speak me, and I speak it on behalf of the whole world, and especially in this moment, the Centers for Spiritual Living in Prescott. And what I know is that we are calling in more ministers and more practitioners who each have their own ministry, whether they have the title or not, that each have their own ministry, so that we become a massive force for good in the Quad City area and in the state of Arizona. We become the place to go to be healed deeply, completely, and transformed using these spiritual truths. We become the place where people come to learn an inner locus of control, to reparent themselves and be reparented by the Divine Mother, to allow ourselves to grow into the magnificent beings, to reveal the magnificent souls that we are and have always been. I celebrate that is the truth, that we don't have to force that into being, that what is ours to do is keep thinking about this world that works for everyone, this center that works for everyone, that is powerful and thriving and creating good, and so much more good that it has to spill over. It has to reach out until we have so much good we can't help but share it all the way around the globe and see it multiply. There is so much good to be enjoyed right here and right now, that there is nothing but good to understand and to revel in on this Divine Mother's Day. This is the day the Mother has made, and so we rejoice and are glad in it and know that this is just the beginning. This is just what Spirit is and what Spirit does. It is evolving in, through, and as each and every one of us, and it is the power of Spirit itself working according to the law that is making it all happen, and we're just along for the ride to claim our good, to point to the next great thing that we want to do, be, or have. I celebrate this as the truth of our being. I celebrate all of us as the magnificent souls that we are, and everything we're doing in the next 10 powerful, beautiful years. I call it good and very good, and I know that it is done, and so it is.